Hey, all right. Hey again, CactusCon. Ryan once more with you from the CactusCon crew. And I am here with Nick and Edmund, who just gave a great talk. And I think it's fantastic. We were able to kind of end out the day with like a block of malware analysis talks. Me being a hardcore malware nerd. I don't know if that was by design on our overall team's part or what, but I loved it. So first off, thank both of you for your talk. Really, really appreciate it. And thank you for being here doing a Q&A with us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Really appreciate it.
Heck yeah. Before we get into it, we don't have a ton of time for our Q&A because we're coming up against the hour. I'm going to go ahead and finish our giveaway for the InfoSec, the signed InfoSec Rockstar book. So I'm just going to do that now, and we will then get into it. So we're going to give away 2 of these bad boys. I'm going to just go over here and that guy. And we go with this guy, and boom. And our winners are Stranger and Robin have been selected by the, I'll take it probably pseudo-random, Hacktar bot. So we will get in touch, and we will make sure that these books get shipped out to you. For anyone who's been following along, if you have won something throughout the day, we will be in touch, essentially. So I'll be shipping a lot of those myself. So I need to know your address, so be prepared for that. All right, fellas, the talk was absolutely awesome. I love the whole discussion about general evasion, sandbox evasion or VM evasion. And I think that we all, especially in the malware community, right, we all remember when any type of virtualized environment, most malware samples were being written such that it'd be like, nuh-uh, I'm not running there, right? And then now, and someone even mentioned in the chat, it's like, do we have non-virtualized environments at this point? Like, really? Especially in a server-based environment, you move laterally over to a DC, you're like, that's probably gonna be virtualized at this point. So we had a couple of great things. One thing I wanted to bring up was API obfuscation. Do either of you have a favorite that you've ever seen for API calls being obfuscated? You talked about that hashing methodology, which you see a lot in malware these days. So anything that just stands out in your head, like that was awesome.
I remember Gosnim, which was a banking Trojan that we did some analysis on a few years ago. They had a pretty interesting hashing algorithm that they were using. And if I recall correctly, they actually had multiple stages of deobfuscation that had to be performed in order to get to the actual API that was being called before you could figure out what the malware was doing. It's pretty interesting.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, I think a lot of it.
No, go ahead, Edmund.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, for me, just the stuff that we talked about, it's just, there's so much out there. This stuff's just, the classics are always going to be great.
Yeah, I agree. We had the general question that started off was basically if malware is checking to see if it's in a VM, it won't run, but wouldn't it be smart to just run your production systems in VMs? So are you still seeing, what percentage, I guess I should say, of the malware samples that you're farting around with are you seeing are just outright going like, that's a VM, I want out, versus this is potentially a sandbox?
I think some of it depends on the type of threat more than anything else, right? You've got threats that are specifically designed to attack, consumers or end users, like the banking Trojans that we referred to, right? They're specifically designed to execute on systems that users use to check their bank accounts, for instance. So, they're going to be, more willing to run on physical systems versus virtual systems. But then you've got other threats that don't really care, like let's say ransomware, that doesn't care if it's a VM or not. It wants to encrypt all the things because that's how they generate revenue. So a lot of it is threat centric as opposed to thinking about it as like a whole.
Yeah,
well said.
What you said? I like that. Yeah. Nice. One of the things about sandbox detection, and we mentioned this in one of the malware courses that I'm affiliated with. For example, Cuckoo, by default, its host name is cuckoo-pc. And you're like, okay, well, that's Cuckoo. What's the most creative thing you've ever seen? I remember the first time that I used a FireEye mass, which is now the AX, right? The analysis engine. The mouse started moving left and right. They opened VNC, and you can actually VNC in and watch it detonate the malware. And I was like, why the hell is the mouse moving? And then realized, like, oh, that's why. Is there anything extremely creative that you've seen that a sandbox or type of system has done to potentially thwart, detection?
I've always liked mouse movement's been one of my favorites. So, writing a script to do that. Yeah. Or writing a script to change active window state. Because a lot of malware will check and it won't do anything until it sees that, the active window state, the active window has changed from one program to the next, to make sure that a user's physically at the keyboard. So things like that are always interesting to implement to try to fool the anti-VM.
Yeah, and I always like for like sandbox stuff, when you even simple stuff like making the macros only execute on exit, right? Most sandboxes aren't going to exit word. So that was a great, super simple evasion that worked really, really well.
Yeah, that's a darn. I actually really like that one. That's a cool idea. All right, I'm a malware guy. I have so many questions I want to ask both of you right now and get into it. Time wise, we got to kick it off. So we're done with giveaways for the day. I wanted to also reference the fact that zip files are now natively just opened by Windows, but it leaves the forensic artifact of the temp and the underscore with the zip name and all these fun things to look at. And you can just run JScript or JavaScript in Windows. Like, that's cool. So a lot of things that you really hit on that just absolutely are very important to the analysis that we all do in the malware world. So thank you both very, very much for your talk. Really, really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It was a good time.
Yeah, awesome. All right, see you guys.